Welcome to the Men's Room Podcast, where real men come together to talk about life, fatherhood, marriage, friendship, and everything in between. I'm your host, Chad Henderson, and here we dive into conversations that most men never get to have. Honest, sometimes raw, but always genuine. This space is brought to you by Yellow Umbrella Coaching for Men, where I'm out here doing it all on my own, offering real support, learning opportunities, and life coaching for men who just want to be better husbands, dads, and friends. So, if you're ready to get real, let's jump in. All right. Hey, fellas, welcome back. I can't believe it's already our third episode, but here we are, recording number 3. How you guys feeling? How's life going? I am coming out of a stressful week, guys. Like I had 2 different days this week where I had like 9 and 9.5 hours of uninterrupted meetings where I'm like trying to end a meeting like 3 minutes early just to make time to go to the bathroom. Like, man, it was a rough one. So I am so glad it's Friday and I'm so glad that you guys are here with me, but you guys got to give me more. How's your work week? How's families doing?
Busy as well over here. I feel like I'm in a lot of different work streams at work, so being just pulled in a lot of areas, but I'm busy, which is good. Makes my week go by quickly. What else? My son turns 4 in 10 days. And so, we're planning for a 4-year-old birthday party, which is a lot, right? We're having it at a park. So we're really praying that it doesn't rain and that it's somewhat warm outside. And so the thing about a March birthday, you just never know what the weather's going to be like. It's like right on the cusp.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
You're telling us you're in Georgia and talking about you don't know how it's going to be, man.
We're a little spoiled here.
Yeah,
if it dips into 50, people don't go outside. So it's nothing like what y'all are doing up north.
This is the point in my life.
Right.
Yeah, those Masters commercials start popping up, and I realize just how different our lives are, about how Augusta looks compared to how Minnesota looks in April.
I saw your Facebook post about golfing, how you only made it 9 holes and you had to pack it up. I can't imagine. That's for us.
When I signed up to play, when your buddies call you and they say you want to play, February 28th in Minnesota, it was supposed to be 55 that day when I signed up. And then the night before, the weather, it said 43, and then it was 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts.
Nope.
Like, man, This was a stupid idea.
Did that work in your favor? Or?
Right,
No,
you just play the wind.
it's there, man. Not when your only goal is to stay warm.
I would hate to see my already horrible slice in 40-mile-per-hour wind. It would be really bad golf.
Exactly. The nice thing, though, the ground is frozen, so your ball bounces, and it rolls like a million miles. So that was fun, at least. You had some good long drives. Anyway. All right. Thanks, Larry. Good to hear from you. Glad Georgia's looking nice. That's great. Taylor, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty well. Spring break is next week, so that should be awesome. Got some work to do before that, but and then the kids and the family I got lots of papers to grade, but then it'll be rest and relaxation time with the family. So looking forward to that.
Good. Awesome. Love to hear it. Good to see you, Taylor. How about you, Brett? Your family's finally over illness over there? Or you guys just waiting for the next one to come in?
Waiting for the next one to come in. I'm still recovering from the cold that went through our house and caused the baby to be home for several days. And so I'll apologize if I cough during the recording, but we're coming out of it. It's been a busy week. It's good. I'm getting ready to start teaching a class starting next week. So it's going to pick up busy wise for me, but I'm always thankful to be busy. It's a good problem to have. So,
absolutely.
But otherwise doing all right.
Yeah, I feel the same way. That's pretty cool. Yeah, we've got spring break starting over here too. So we're heading back to visit family. You know how it is at this age. Like we got one parent who's dealing with cancer battle and going through chemo. It's just time. We got to make more time to get home, see our families and all that. So we'll be traveling back to Illinois for a few days and things are going good over here. So
I would like to add my mom just announced that she's 100% clear and good with her blood cell, white blood cells and stuff. So everything's good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good job.
I love hearing that.
Awesome.
Good job. Go Renee. Well, that's great. Well, that actually has me thinking, what month are we? October, March. Jesus. March is colorectal cancer awareness month. And that had me asking the question, boys, I don't know how old we all are, but I'm pretty sure we're all about that age. Taylor, how old do I have to be when I start getting colonoscopies?
It's 40 and it's coming.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry, dude.
I know. Okay, so I turn 39 next month, so I've got just another year left. That's fine. All right, I can do this. I'm not ready
6
for
months.
it.
6 months.
I remember
Ooh.
that number used to
Really?
seem a lot further out, like something I didn't need to worry about, and here we are. Boy, Taylor, oh, you got 6 months, so Larry's going to lead
Larry's
us
gonna
through
be-
that first.
Yeah, September
Larry-
14th, the big 4-0. Here it comes.
All right, cool. Well, the colon cancer awareness month also just had me thinking, I don't know about you guys, but I see a lot of stuff on my social media about women living longer and men living shorter. And I think it has something to do with the way we treat our health. Maybe, Taylor, I'm going to pass it over to you, man. Why are women living longer than men? And how do I fix this for myself?
Listen, I think it's a lot of things. I do think health is a big reason. Us not going to the doctor as much plays a role, no doubt. But I also think careers, men generally have more dangerous careers. Maybe not true for us here, but
Behind our nice desks.
say?
Yeah.
Working
What
from
is your-
home, yeah.
but there is the stress and pressure of being a man too, and we could dive into that if you wanted to as well. I still think the
say that.
expectation of being the provider and stuff is still, or the protector is still there a little bit.
I also will say that I feel like you will more often hear men say, hey, watch this, and then they do something really stupid.
Right. Yes,
And
100%.
women don't do that. And honestly, if it wasn't for my wife, I would have a lot more, hey, watch this moments that would probably have ended up.
Definitely. Yeah.
Hey, that's what
Yeah, I
YouTube
mean-
and TikTok are made of, right?
Right,
That's what I
exactly,
spend my evenings doing.
I mean, when we go to the trampoline parks with my kids, and I'm like, hey, I'm like, talking to my
100%.
wife, and she's like, don't do that. That's a terrible idea.
What are you doing?
Whenever I think about that, I think about when I was younger and running into a tree with my pads on and laughing about it, stuff like that. No wonder they
That
live
is-
longer. Right?
Right.
Taylor, I remember visiting your house. I was telling my wife after the last podcast, I remember visiting your house and being like, this place is fucking nuts. Like, I remember your brothers were like body slamming each other, having like a WWF or whatever that was in the living room.
We used to carry a mattress around to the neighbor's house and wrestle on it, and no wonder I got the shoulder pain.
Yeah. I was talking to another friend who was talking about like he's trying to recover, from it was like a toe injury. He's like, but I don't want to do a fusion yet. And I was like, well, why wouldn't you want to do a fusion? He's like, well, I'm trying to stay as athletic for as long as possible. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I gave up on that a long time ago. Like, I don't know, man. If I've got a toe problem, I'm fixing it now, even if that means I can't like run anymore. But I think, Taylor, I had read something, and maybe this isn't, I'm not fact checking it or anything, but a lot of men have their wives making their doctor's appointments, or like, I know, shout out to my dad and my mom. I think my mom like orders my dad's prescriptions for him and like puts it in the pill organizer. Where are you guys at with that? Are you got your wives making your doctor's appointments, or what's the deal with this group?
Yeah. For me, it's like whenever, like I'll make them my own when I feel like I need to, which is probably not as often as I should.
Right.
Like this last
Which
week,
is
like,
what my
I'm
wife
pretty,
encourages me.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, or sometimes I really will be sick, and my wife will make that like she'll just be like, I made your doctor's appointment on Friday. I'll be like, okay, I guess I'm going. Like, I've got this like lower, like upper respiratory thing going on right now. And maybe I should go in for it. Maybe I shouldn't. I'm not really sure. But like, I'm not the one really thinking, like, I'm thinking like, so it'll go away, take some over the counter stuff. So it's definitely one of those situations, where I think she's probably monitoring my health probably more.
Yeah.
Right there with you, Brett. Like, I literally had my annual physical 2 weeks ago, and she definitely scheduled it. I had nothing to do with it. She asked me when I was available, scheduled it, tell me where to go. I go to the doctor's office, and I basically have a list of questions that my wife tells me to ask. Like, this is the things you need to make sure you're checking in on. And so, checking the list off. Like, yep, this is why I'm here, doctor. This is what my wife wants to know. Am I okay? We're good to go. I send her my chart. She read it, and she tells me what to do. So I fight it a lot, which is probably not good, because I know she does it just to take care of me and to make sure that
she's
I'm
looking
healthy.
out for you.
Yeah. And I'm also just stubborn. Like, I don't need to go to the doctor. I don't want to waste money on that.
Right.
I don't have time for that. I'm okay. She's also a trained dietitian, so she works in healthcare. So she's much more aware of the stuff that I'm not aware of. Bless Jessica Cloud. I would definitely not have been to the doctor probably over the last 5+ years if it wasn't for her. Shout out to Jeff.
When you said annual doctor's appointments, I was like, you guys are doing that? I mean, I know I should be, but I saw
my
my doctor.
prescriptions run out, and so I got to go in.
There you go.
That's actually,
Forcing function.
That's why they have that
at least,
rule.
at least it gets you in, you know?
Yeah, they're like, I can't refill anything, so I gotta go. I gotta go in.
Yeah, I think for me, the health journey has just been a little bit different. I mean, I found out I had a genetic heart condition when I was 23 years old, and the doctor had called me and he's like, "Hey, listen, I need to see you right away. Don't work out until we talk."
Wow.
Okay, that's a scary phone call to get. And then I had a pacemaker and defibrillator implanted at 23 years old. I had open heart surgery at 32. And the real difference was like when we hit 2020 and you couldn't bring your partner in with you, like I had to start going to solo doctor's appointments, and all of a sudden I didn't have to, my wife has a great memory. She's a great note taker. So I would just sort of engage with the doctor, and then she would tell me later what actually happened. So I really had to start taking more accountability at that point. But yeah, certainly wives out there, I think, are carrying a heavy weight load for us.
100%.
Yeah.
Maybe we can step up a little more and just help take care of ourselves. I think that would be probably a good goal to have.
Good. Considering, they also like our wives are also like obviously caring for the kiddos if you have kids or whatnot.
Yeah,
so they're constantly worried about them, and then they're having to worry about you,
right?
You as a grown adult. Probably do better.
Yeah. There's Keelan also handles all of the doctor's stuff for the kids. I will say we have a split. That's my rationale. I take care of school and she takes care of medical. So I don't know which is worth on some of those days where, I heard from the school twice the other day. One time each kid was having problems, but I'd still rather handle that than any of their medical appointments, because we got kids going to therapy and visiting all kinds of specialists, and I can't imagine how she keeps all of that straight. I'm thankful for it, but what do your wives handle all kids stuff?
We do teamwork when it comes to the making appointments and stuff, but we were just giving them antibiotics for strep, was it a few weeks ago? And yeah, she did that. I'm not gonna lie, she handled that a lot better than I would. One of them really did not want to take it, and thank goodness she was there. And
yeah, we tag team medical stuff. I typically will do a lot of the appointments and things like that. I'm also comfortable giving like the uncomfortable medications. Like they kind of make the kids fussy, and then my wife definitely handles the school stuff. I should probably get better at some of that, but especially with the 6-year-old, my wife handles more, and then the baby will take primary on that.
Yeah, Jess is definitely much more the tactical person of our couple, of our pairs. She definitely schedules things, takes care of the health, medicine, those types of things that need to get done. I play a different role in the way that we handle Colin. Luckily, he's only 3 right now, about to be 4. The school is not a big thing at the moment. And so I think once we move into that with my education background, that will probably be my big role, taking that over for sure. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm excited about that, or I have to learn math again. Why is math different than when I learned math years ago?
Yes, it is.
Why is that a thing?
No, totally.
I think it's supposed to be more efficient or faster or better somehow, but the old school methods worked, just fine.
All right. Look at us. We all made it out.
That's true. That's true. I also think it's funny, switching gears a little bit to talking about men's mental health. It was kind of funny. I was doing one of those ADHD inventories for my daughter. I'm going down the list of do you do this? And I'm like, well, yeah, of course she does. You do this, yes. And I'm checking all these boxes, and finally I get 8 down. And I turned to my wife and I was like, this is ridiculous. Aren't these yes for everybody? She was like, wait, what? That was when I realized I had ADHD only just a few years ago. So that made me go and talk to my own therapist, who I've mentioned a couple times. I think I've been doing a therapy biweekly for 7 years. Probably my greatest and most proud accomplishment at this point, that I have this long-standing relationship. But I went to her and I was like, hey, this weird thing happened. I was taking this inventory. So she started asking me some more questions and then got a formal diagnosis. But I think that's common, that a lot of adults might not realize that they have some of those things. Taylor, have you heard of anything like that, or you run across anything like that in your...
Well, I think a lot of those things, like ADHD, are considered childhood disorder, but a lot of adults can struggle with them. And so I think that could be part of the reason. Yeah. And then men are less likely to seek mental health, even if they're struggling. We have a tendency to keep things to ourselves, and maybe we're taught that culturally or, by our peers. I know my brothers really didn't like to talk about that stuff at all. And so they would just deal with stuff internally, but it can really help to get an expert's voice and tips and tricks and stuff like that.
There's a lot of examples that I can think of things that we're told as boys growing up, right, and becoming men, and even by very well-intentioned parents, right? Like my parents were awesome and caring, but like, the messages of like, oh, boys don't cry, or like making sure you're not showing emotion or that kind of stuff. And that, at least for me, like it's hard to break that down. And a lot of people, like I've been very intentional, right? I've been going to therapy and have a hard time with it. So then if I'm trying to connect with dudes, the golf course is kind of where this happens a lot for me, because you play with all kinds of characters, and like not a lot of men are thinking about or doing anything about their mental health. And so much of the way that I interact with my kids, and like I catch myself now, I know like when there's a bunch of noises happening, that I get overstimulated as a result of my ADHD. And that's why I tend to like elevate really quickly and react really big. But without knowing that and without focusing on that, you can't acknowledge what you don't know. So I'm always really thankful that I got into it, but it makes me worried about some of my guy friends who don't. Have you all had any experiences to share about like your own mental health, or like, how do you approach it? Do you approach it?
Yeah, for me, I do, but it came at a point in time, this was 2020, when I was under a lot of stress with work, and my dad's health was starting to decline. So I was in a place where, like, luckily I was around a lot of educated people, a lot of people who were good friends who would be honest with me. And they were like, have you talked to anybody about it? And I was like, yeah, I talked to my friends. They're like, no. Have you talked to like a professional about it? Luckily, I already had a connection, and that's when I started going to therapy and getting help and stuff like that. Had it not been for that instance, like really getting to that boiling place of trying to figure out what to do, I don't think I would have, gone. Since then, I've been consistent with it.
Have you continued going?
Yeah. It's just helped me a lot. Just process life, and mostly just stress, depression, anxiety, those types of things.
No, he was in such a good spot. That's okay. He'll be back. He'll come back. But yeah, I was, working with Brett as he was going through some of that. So I know he's very intentional about the way that he handles his mental health. How about the two of you? How have you had to acknowledge that? Hey, Brett, welcome back. We lost you for a second. I'm not sure if we've got you back now.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know what happened.
You left rather abruptly. I thought maybe we upset you.
No, I have no idea. The browser just crashed.
Oh,
interesting.
Cool. Well, welcome back. How about you, Larry and Taylor? Have you had any, what's your experience has been like?
So when I was younger, I was diagnosed with anorexia. That I was a wrestler, and I think it is more common in that sport. And I got a little help at the time. And honestly, there are probably a few times in my life where I probably should have, went to therapy, but I feel like sometimes because I teach therapy techniques and stuff, I try to do some of the stuff on my own, but sometimes you just need a little more than you could do on your own. And so unfortunately, I do think there's a stigma. Part of my thesis was on the stigma towards seeking mental health, especially for men, making them less likely to do it. And I think we just really need to change that. So I'm so glad we're having this conversation and being open about these struggles.
Yeah, I mean, I knew you in high school. Was that like a high school timeline where you were getting diagnosed with that?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I don't recall that being something that was shared or anything. Was it something that you kept pretty quiet and to yourself, or how did you handle that?
Yeah, it was pretty quiet. My family knew about it. They started to encourage me to eat more. It's kind of weird because I would go from wrestling to football and then that transition. But there were times where I would get so many compliments that it became kind of intoxicating. And so, yeah, that's what ultimately led to the problem. But
from my angle, right? Like I was always a chunky little fat kid, right? Like in high school, it didn't exactly get better. And then I remember like you were just like a physical specimen by the end of high school. Like you were muscular and trim and like you were wrestling. I had no idea you were going through that. I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, sure.
That's tough. That's tough to figure out. And I think the same reasons you probably chose not to share is like a big part of what leads into some of these stigmas is like, you don't want to appear in any way weak, or like you don't have something together. Like the last thing I wanted to do in high school was kind of like anything that made me feel or look different, right? Like I just wanted to blend in. We talked about that last, and I really appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, I think that resonates with me like a lot, right? I mentioned, I think in the first episode, I come from a military family. My dad's an ex-Marine, and then also half Asian. And so at the Asian culture, there's a lot of this idea of not complaining, being silent in the background. And I think those two things mixed together, I hate talking about myself, which is interesting because I talk about myself a lot on this podcast. But I think I'm very comfortable with talking about other people or helping other people, or I'm allowing people to like unpack things that they're dealing with. I used to work in higher education, so being a big helping field, that was something that I love to do. But I'm really bad at like practicing what I preach. I know that I would benefit from therapy and having those conversations, right? Over the last 4 or 5 years or so, I think I've been dealing a lot with like just identity crisis and most like racial crisis, what it means to be a Filipino man in a very often predominantly white constructs and environments, and how I started to deal with that in my life. I've never really talked about it with anybody, but I think a lot of it is because my background, my upbringing, my parents, and the way that they kind of approach issues or challenges that they have too. They're, again, very loving and very supportive, and I wouldn't be who I am without them, but I also know they're not going to be the people that sit down and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is what's bothering me. They're very much going to kind of deal with it on their own. And so I think that really has made me who I am when it comes to the way that I talk about my own feelings as well.
Yeah, a lot of good
My
stuff.
wife I talk about my feelings more as well. So,
I mean, I think it's so interesting that I teach about these things, but still, if I'm going to cry, like after my grandma passed away, I'll go find somewhere to cry where no one's around, Like it's interesting how, even though you think about it, even though I know like I should be more vulnerable, I'm vulnerable in class. I try to be with my kids as well because I think it helps. But yeah, I still will sometimes hide, if I'm trying to cry, like I want to go do that on my own, not in front of everybody, unless.
Yeah.
I
had a grad school professor, Keith Edwards, who would always talk about like that when it's really difficult, like there are times where I would like to cry and like, I don't even know, like something prevents me from it, or like I'm watching a sad movie with Keelan and like I start to feel like I want to cry. The thing that Keith always pointed out is like, I even know that there's probably emotional benefit to me crying at that movie in front of my wife, and I still can sometimes not bring myself to show that emotion. In fact, I'm more likely to like make a joke or distract it. And like, I'm a person that's pretty in touch in general, like with I don't feel like I need to be overly masculine or anything, but I have a really hard time crying even now. What's the norm? Y'all feel that?
I think, yeah, it's very similar for me. But for example, I have girls in class that will say, I just want to watch a sad movie and cry. And I just could not imagine a guy, saying that openly. Not that I would judge them at all, because I think, like you said, there's some benefits to crying. And, one of the things, the more I thought about that was they want to cry because they would feel less alone in their emotion. Like if you're feeling a certain way, you watch a movie that fits your emotion, and that's kind of helpful to process things and stuff, maybe. Yeah, it's interesting how we still fall back to that stereotype of men trying to hide their emotions. And, we're kind of taught that sometimes, like you said, by people we love with good intentions, or even what you see in the movies and stuff. It plays a role in how we think about things. So
I think there's just some I'm noticing some different mental health that I need to pay attention to as I get a little older. Like we joke around the conversation about turning 40, but also like that's halfway to 80, like the thought occurs like, shit, man, like 10 years ago, I remember turning 30. It didn't seem like that long ago. It does, but it also doesn't. Like, I'm going to be 50 before you know it. Like, I also could just kind of wonder, like, I don't know, maybe as you get older, I don't hear any guys talking about like the mental shift that happens as you get older and sort of the life circumstances. I don't even know what I'm saying. Like, it's a different feeling.
Do it now.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was thinking about the love episode we recorded, and just how if there was something I could have said about love, it would have been that. Just love now, because you don't know how much time you have, and our time is limited. Our time with each other is limited. So just show it, express it, take the trip if you can't afford it, make it happen, make that a big leap you're trying to make in your career, whatever it is, do it now, because you never know. And we only got a limited amount of time, sadly.
And I think also, as we can talk about health and the way I take care of myself too. And as we get older, I think a big shift, of course, I think we're all fathers, right? And I think when I think of my health, when I wasn't a father, let's say 10 years ago, I wouldn't care as much. I would like, oh, I want to have this extra drink instead of go run in the morning, or, hey, I'm going to have this supersized fry rather than, whatever this thing may be that I don't need to be eating. But now I always think about, like, I want to make sure that I'm around for my kid more, right? Because I think that's one of my biggest pushing things, is that I would hate for my kid to have to go through like their life without me or without my support. And because I imagine, I'm lucky that I haven't lost my father, but if and when that happens, I know that will be really tough. And I'm lucky that he's been with me for 40 years of my life. I want to be there for as long as I can with my son. That's one reason why I hate flying, right? I hate flying, not because I think it's going to crash, but like I have no control. And if it crashes, yes, I will be dead, and I will be really sad for myself. But I imagine like my son now having to grow up without me. I'm like, oh, that just sounds like,
isn't that interesting?
So, there's something crazy how that's almost worse thought than myself. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, when I'm not able to care about myself, I usually can like care about myself by proxy.
Yeah.
Like, well, if I don't take care of this, like I'm going to be leaving my wife in a really tough spot. Or no, I absolutely get
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Along with that is I want to be able to move with them. I want to be able to play with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been a few years here where I haven't been the most physically fit, and it's time to do that because my kids are running, they're riding a bike, and I want to stay with them. I want to play soccer with them and not be, also I want to be a good example for them. So that's a big part of it too.
Yeah. My wife uses that on me a lot.
What she
says, don't you want to be around for Colin? Like you want to, and so I'm like, oh, you're right. I need to go work out, or, hey, I need to stop eating this food, or I need to go to the doctor.
Right for it,
that's a big one. Like he says, oh yeah, I'm like, yeah, I guess I need to go to the doctor so I can be around longer. So there you go.
And you got me yearly appointments. You got me thinking I need to get on that.
I just want to be playing golf when I'm still like, when I'm 73, I want to make sure that I can still get around. I don't even know where I read this shit. Like maybe none of it's true, but I had read something at one point, like there's like one of the biggest predictors of whether or not you'll end up in like a senior home or in an assisted living home is like like how far you can walk. So like keep walking for as long and as far as you can, no matter what your age is, because like that's more likely to keep you like healthy longer. I think about that kind of stuff a lot. It's like, I'm not that far away from it. Like my health is probably the peak right now. What it might be, like I got to keep it at least stable. I don't know. This is the things I think of.
You got a small window, right? That they're going to be like, Dad, what do you want to do? Let's go play.
Yeah. This podcast came out of me trying to start this coaching business, which has kind of been all over the place. But one of the things that I wanted to do was, I know a lot of guys that would like to think about therapy, but like are afraid to try it. Or, I hear a lot of people like trying to find a therapist and they get put on a long wait list. And obviously if you need to get into therapy, like you can't replace therapy with something else. But I'm hoping that by providing some sort of coaching, that maybe somebody who's maybe not quite ready to take the big therapy jump, or maybe is stuck on a wait list and just wants to like have somebody else to talk to, hoping that like providing people with as many of those opportunities as we can get is hopefully anything that will get somebody to reach out in any way for help. Makes a big difference. And I know I'm lucky enough to have this conversation with you guys who spend a lot of time thinking about these things. And I just kind of worry about my friends. It's hard. Larry, at one point you mentioned like it's hard to talk about some of these things. Like, yeah, it's hard to talk to a friend about, like, sometimes I want to, like, you spent 4.5 hours with a group of guys on a golf course, right? Like you're rarely hitting a ball. You're mostly in the car doing whatever. And there's times where like, I want to take the conversation down a serious route. And like, it just can't happen. Like I've even tried to bring stuff up and people get uncomfortable and change the subject, or like it becomes a joke. And like, sometimes I think it's just like, it's hard to even break into that conversation and try and share something really vulnerable. With my heart stuff, like that's not just a physical thing. Like that messes with your mind, right? Like whenever somebody comes to you and says like, hey, the circumstances of what you're living with might limit some of your length of your life, right? Like to just put it as nicely as possible. and like you're going through that and you want to talk to somebody about it, but like it's hard to break into a conversation like that with a group of dudes. I think
For sure.
it's been hard for me.
No,
I mean,
I remember a situation. One of like my best friend, him and his wife were going through something like really tough happened, and I know that he was struggling, and I was trying to find an opportunity to talk to him, right? And my wife was nudging me to try to have those conversations because she was having a conversation with his spouse, and it was a golf course, right? We were on the golf course, and I was afraid because I wasn't sure how he was going to react because we hadn't really had those type of conversations before. I wasn't sure if he was ready to have the conversation because it was really fresh. But I knew for me, as a good friend, I would feel, as his best friend, I would have felt really bad if I didn't at least try, right? So I think with you, Chad, what you said, I think, yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, they may not lean into it. Yes, they may not want to talk. But I think the reality is, the flip side of that is, yes, they might, right? And I think that impact of that, yes, I want to talk about it, is going to be so much stronger than that person saying, hey, I just don't want to talk about it right now. Maybe come back to it later. Once you get that yes, I think that power, that impact, that support, that love that guy's going to feel, I think that leap of faith to that yes, I think is worth it. And so I felt really, it was tough for me. I'm glad I had that conversation because we were able to unlock and unpack a lot of really great things. We became closer. But I also know younger me, I probably would have never done. And I think there's probably a lot of friends that I should have talked to that I didn't. And I think looking back, just again, leaping into it, you'll never know when that person just says, yes, hey, I want to talk, I want to cry, I want to do whatever. And that could be really impactful in that friendship.
Sometimes it's just give the opportunity for them to talk about it, give them space to talk about it, and then they can make a choice if they want to or not, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, my immediate friend group, we do talk about a lot of like personal or kind of like struggles maybe we're having. Oftentimes it's work stuff, but you know, I guess that's maybe the age we are. But my oldest brother joined our group chat recently, and he's like, "Wow, you guys are really nice to each other in the group chat. Like, you're not trolling each other all the time. You're not like making fun of each other. This is kind of weird."
That's exactly right. That is such a good point.
I did read an article, again, like Chad, I don't remember where I read it this morning about the impacts and the strength of friendship when people make fun of each other in those friendships. So, hey, there's value in a little, jabbing here and there.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. It can be fun, that does remind me of a study where they found that the greatest predictor of happiness, like over the long term, was good friendships, solid friendships, and they are so important. Oh, yeah, I think it is. Yeah. There's a TED Talk about it too, by the way. Yeah. And they started to include their wives, by the way, finally. It's been going on it's over a 50-year study, I know. It's at one of the major, I don't know if it's Harvard, Yale, one of those big universities. I do remember the mention of the book, I think. Yeah. Well, I have not read the book, actually.
I'm open to accepting sponsorships. If the author would like to reach out to me, our audience. Hey, boys, actually, my plan was we were going to record the first 3 episodes of this bad boy and then release it. So I get this one edited. Brett might have made it really difficult on my editing. I don't know. It says upload complete over here on his audio. So I don't know if we're getting any of Brett right now.
No.
Man, I hope he's in it. Man, Brett had some good additions there. I hope he's in.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. It does say upload complete, and for everyone else, it does not say that. So I don't know what that's going to look like.
He doesn't have the red dot I noticed above his head. I don't know.
Now that you say that, I also noticed that as well. Interesting.
Son of a bee. I don't even know how to get the red dot to come back. You said some really good stuff in there.
What
do I do?
Man. Well, maybe it was caught in our audio somehow or something. I don't know.
I doubt it. Well, boys, we don't get a lot of chance to talk about health. I know it's 1 o'clock. I told y'all we would wrap up. Brett might have ruined most of it anyway, but that's okay. We'll keep him on. Whatever weird stuff happened with his browser, we'll just fill it.
The next conversation will be even better now. We all know what to say.
Right.
We're ready.
Yeah. The Internet Explorer will get you every time, Brett. I mean, I'm kidding.
Oh, that's really funny.
Kidding.
Do you guys have, I think I got one complaint from a listener. We've got like 4 listeners right now. Okay. So like 25% of our audience mentioned that they liked what we did in episode 1 where we had hot takes.
Wow.
So I don't know if anybody has a hot take. I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't warn you about it. I think my hot take would be, I really, not just men. I know plenty of folks where like one person in the relationship is not taking ownership over their health, whether it be prescriptions or, doctor's appointments. I think when you do that, you set your partner up for a lot of extra pressure and a lot of extra animosity. And so my challenge to folks, even in this room, would be to make sure you're taking control of your health, and make sure you ask your partner, or at least check in with your partner, and understand that, like, if they're doing that with you, like, they're probably doing it because they feel stressed and anxious about some of the things that we talked about. So that would be my hot take. It would just be, take care of your health. Like,
Yes.
handle your stuff. Anybody else?
I guess my hot take would be there shouldn't be a mental health stigma. I don't know if that's really a hot take, but 50% of people meet the criteria for a disorder at some point in their life. If you do want a hot take, I got another angle I could go with it, but it would just be that that if they're saying we're not supposed to retire until 70 or 69, I think they want to raise the retirement ages to 69. For Black men, their average lifespan is 70 years. So you're literally telling Black men and many men, unfortunately, that they're going to work until they die. And that's just messed up. I think we deserve more years of retirement and enjoyment in life where we don't have to work all the time.
Absolutely. That's a whole nother podcast talking about the differences in lifespans across races, because that's some real stuff too, and we didn't even touch that.
I would say my hot take is like enjoy a guilty pleasure especially with food often. Like, my wife is a trained dietitian, and she will always say when she talks to people about food, it's not about eliminating the bad things, it's about enjoying them in moderation. And so I've learned to do that in my life. So, enjoy Noria, enjoy an ice cream sandwich, eat a bowl of Fruity Pebbles every once in a while. And I think, just don't make it a habit all the time.
Yeah, I like it.
Can I make a joke while you're... Oh, never mind. Okay. Moderation in all things except for heroin, fentanyl, and meth, and right?
Right. Yes. Thank you. Good point, Taylor.
Thanks for
like
clearing
sweet
that up. Actually,
potato
everything,
chips.
isn't it, Taylor? I appreciate that. Very literal Professor Taylor over here. Thank you. All right, Brett, you're back, man. I think we missed you for most of the episode, but what's your hot take, buddy?
Okay. Yeah, I'll just kind of riff off of what everybody else has kind of said. And I think it's what I mentioned. I don't know if it was recorded earlier, but it's just that life is short. And when you get to our age, approaching 40, as we talked about, you start to have parents who are getting ill, maybe dying, unfortunately, earlier, got grandparents, and you're reminded, like, how precious time is with your spouse, with your kids, and really even yourself, just being able to take care of yourself. So I'd say don't wait.
Spend time with the people you love.
There you go.
I did see a meme that was a tombstone that said you could get on your tombstone, you work really hard. Is that what you want on your tombstone?
Yeah. Exactly.
Good one.
No, you want that you spent time with your family and that they remember that.
Yeah, I was sitting in my office being at home. Like, I'm very guilty of, like, I'll sit here until later in the evening, or I'll come back to my desk at the end because, like, I just need to get something done. The other day, my son came over and he's just like, Daddy, you want to go outside and kick a ball? I'm like, oh my God, this is such a movie right now. Like, I know the right answer is, like, I'm just going to close this shit down.
Right.
Yes. Just kind of hit me, like, you hear about dads making mistakes during their kids' childhood. Like, we're in those years right this second, right? Like, you don't get to try it again. Like, you've got this many years to get it right. And sometimes I try and remind myself that, like, it's really important to get it right now. Not that I always do. I'm not, holier than thou or anything like that.
Mistakes are inevitable,
Absolutely.
Mistakes will happen, but if you learn from them, then it's not in vain.
Absolutely. Well, my challenge out there this week would be, for those listening, if you have someone in your life, and I know we're a podcast focused on men, certainly these topics are not applicable only to men. If you have someone in your life that you think could use some help, I know we talked about mental health, whether it's physical health or taking control, feel free to refer them over. If somebody wants to have a conversation, I'm open to it. But talk to someone. And so that's kind of my challenge to folks, is check in with your friends. I liked Larry's challenge last week. I did make sure that I text someone kind of out of the blue. I did it a couple of times this week. So hopefully folks are following through with that. And now we're going to take it a step further and focus a little bit more on helping each other with your help. Thank you, boys, for stopping by again. I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks.
Great discussion, guys.
Yeah. Thank you, fellas. Take care.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks for joining us in the men's room today. We hope these conversations leave you feeling empowered, less alone, and ready to take on life as a better husband, father, and friend. Remember, the Men's Room is proudly brought to you by Yellow Umbrella Coaching for Men, your destination for honest support, practical coaching, and community. If you're hungry for more learning opportunities or want to find out how individual life coaching can help you grow, visit yellowumbrellaconsulting.com. Until next time, take care of yourself and those around you, and we look forward to seeing you in the Men's Room.